Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of BLEAV in Bears. My name is Joey Christopoulos with my co-host Corey Wootton. But first, today's episode is presented by betonline.ag. Look, the NFL, it's back. It's better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams take the field for another football season. And as always, BetOnline, it's your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. It's got a new updated site and interface. There are more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. So what are you waiting for? Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit if you use promo code BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V, to receive your bonus. Football, basketball, boxing, Major League Baseball, playoffs, NBA, hockey, your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season only at betonline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to the pod. It's a victory pod. We're back, baby. We've got 2 in a row. We're building a win streak. It's the Chicago Bears pick up a victory against the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. Or maybe we should just call it Chicago at this point because there's a lot of Bears fans in the stadium yesterday. 20-9 victory in Week 5. We're going to dive into it right now. We're going to get into all the news and notes and look forward. But first, let's bring in my co-host, Corey Wootton. Corey, say hello real quick, and also just real fast, at the end of last pod, we were saying, hey, Bill Lazor, they might be listening to our pod, man. Oh, I don't know. What were your key matchups yesterday? Grind it out, pressure, run some exits on Khalil Mack. I mean, some of these notes that you brought up, man, they're listening to you, man. And what are we seeing? We're seeing W's on the board. Fancy that.
Exactly. Coach Wootton over here. You might as well get me on the staff because, they call me Nostradamus around here. I like to predict it, right? We talked about this game plan, right? Stopping Derek Carr, right? How do you do that? Stopping the run game, right? They hold Oakland rather at Las Vegas. I keep getting that messed up,
all the personal foul penalties, it should have been Oakland at that point yesterday.
Exactly, right? But Vegas, they only had 71 yards rushing, right? And that's the key. Josh Jacobs was back, him and Kenyon Drake, they really couldn't get going. The Bears really were able to stuff him, right? You put that pressure on Derek Carr and they were able to hit him. He came out of the game for a little bit. Roquan hit him on that run play, but that's the recipe for success, right? You stuff that run, you make the team one-dimensional. And I said, when you put all the pressure on Derek Carr, a lot of times he folds in there. When stuff is going well, when they're getting the running game going, and hey, his receivers at the same time didn't help him out at times. But when you make him one-dimensional and you make that team one-dimensional, they kind of struggle when the pressure's all on him. And I love the game plan. The only thing, right, that I've been talking about is dialing up that blitz package more, running some of those games. And we did see the Khalil Mack exit stunt, right? And first, take one step in, you pick the guard, then the tackle comes around. Khalil Mack, once he picked that guard, he got skinny in between him, comes home with the sack, right? Him and Derek Carr are jawing at each other all day. And then he comes home on what we think is another sack, but on 2-point conversions, they don't do that.
Boo.
Yeah. But the only thing is dialing up that blitz package a little bit more. There was still and you saw it in situations on third and medium and long where Derek Carr's patting the ball. He's got 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds at times, right? And there was a couple times where Waller dropped the ball, Ruggs dropped the ball for wide open thing. So that's a situation where they just need to bring a little bit more pressure. Stop being so conservative and at times rushing 3 people or just rushing 4. Bring 5, bring 6. That way you confuse them. In that case, if you're worried about coverage, play up a little bit more in your coverage, right? When you have those extra defenders coming to buy some time for that rush. So that's my only negative about that. I thought they did a great job keeping them from the end zone for the most part, but the pressure, I think that's the key because you can't always get home with 4, and at times 4 sacks is great, but we just need more pressure. And no quarterback in this league should have 6 to 8 seconds ever.
Yeah,
that's on the coordinator at that point. You realize certain games that your front 4 can get the pressure they need, right? And in the past 2 weeks, we didn't see that enough. You on third and long situations, you got to be able to get off the field. And you got to be able to pressure him and get him uncomfortable.
Well, one of the reasons, man, why I'm loving doing BLEAV in Bears with you is I was watching the game and I saw that Khalil Mack sack and I went, whoa, that's what Corey was just talking about, man. That's that exit play. And I texted you and I think I said Texas at first, but you're like, no, man, that's exit. And I'm like, dude, like you're pointing this stuff out and I'm learning from you like in the moment on the fly. And let's just stay on the defense. Let's talk about it a little bit because, they only allowed 9 points. I think it's, I don't think no one's necessarily satisfied, but I think everyone's feeling really good. And I just want to kind of talk to you about what are you seeing in terms of the maturation of the players and the coaching staff? Because week 1, man, against the Rams, we got a secondary that doesn't want to tackle. We got missed assignments all over the place. Our pass rush isn't that great. And now all of a sudden we're in week 5 heading into week 6. We're 3-2. We're about to play a Packers team with a defense that, man, dude, our secondary there's physicality going on. I feel like Darren Waller didn't want to go out and make some of those. He got those alligator arms that you were talking about. Robert Quinn has got a speed that we did not see last year, right? Khalil Mack has 5 sacks right now. Hakeem Hicks wasn't in the game, but we did okay. We hung in there. Roquan Smith is just all over the field. So what are you seeing from a player's perspective from week 1 to week 5?
Yeah.
I mean, is it just confidence? Is it something technical that you're seeing?
Yeah.
And also, if you can also maybe illuminate on the other side, is there one thing that Sean Desai's defense does that Chuck Pagano's last year just straight up didn't? That maybe you're noticing a little bit more on a week-to-week basis as we get deeper into the season.
Yeah, I think the thing was that first game that was kind of out of character from what we've seen in the Bears in the prior seasons, right? They're usually very disciplined when it comes to assignments and things of that nature. And in that first game, we saw 2 blown assignments, that resulted in touchdowns, and then another one was a bad angle by Eddie Jackson towards the end of the game. So that's something that we really are not accustomed to seeing. And we saw that in the first week. And then after in the second week against the Bengals, going against Joe Burrows out there, I think that's when they really got their confidence as a unit and they were able to get turnovers, sacks. And you just saw every game after that. Even in the Browns game, when things weren't great at times, they were still able to get that pressure. And I think this defense really thrives off pressure, right? And I said that from the beginning. I think the front 4 and front 7 is really going to dictate this defense. And that's what we've seen, right? You look at who has been playing well, right? Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn. And then you look at in the middle of that front 7, Roquan Smith is having an absolute beast of a year. I mean, he's really climbing the ladder, like I said, like everyone notices it in that game. I mean, he's been sideline to sideline. We know he has the speed. He's able to cover, run with a guy like Darren Waller, which is impressive. And I think that's the strength of this team. What we're seeing them do really well is playing physical, right? Whenever you see the secondary hitting, and you talked about that, the alligator arms, guy like Darren Waller is a tall, athletic guy. And when he goes in there like a T-Rex arm, he's scared. He's scared because
DHC and Deion Bush now have no problem hitting people. And Gibson did that yesterday, and he's a guy that likes to get his nose into it too.
Exactly. And that's great when you have a secondary that loves to hit because, in this league, not to be stereotypical of the back end defenders, but, at times they're known as prima donnas, guys that just want to cover, get interceptions, do all the glory, bat down a ball, talk that stuff, right? All that stuff. But, they usually don't want to stick their head in there and tackle and come downhill on somebody. But all these guys are coming downhill. They're hitting defenders. They're run support. When a guy goes across the middle, they're letting them feel it, and they're doing it in a great way. Look at how Roquan in the end zone when he had that great hit. I think it was on Renfro. And that's something like it's a bang, bang play. He hit him with his shoulder. He didn't lead with his head. The guy ducked. And what are you going to do? Like that should have not been a penalty. But, in this league, they're trying to protect players. But I just love the physicality. You cannot fault somebody for that. He was in the right in that. And I don't think that should have been called. But I love the physicality from the defensive line, setting the tone to the linebackers, to the safeties. And I told you, it all starts with that front 4 and front 7. And I think since that Bengals game, that's why they were able to get those sacks. That's why they were able to get the turnovers, right? But my only negative, right, and you've seen this too, is on the 3rd and long situation. I think on 1st and 2nd down, they're doing a great job with the front 4 rushing, But I think when it comes to situations where the offensive line knows, hey, I'm dropping back, I'm getting ready to get against Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn. They're not generating that same pressure, right? So that's a situation where Sean Desai, listen, I know he's worried about coverage and they have great receivers, but I think a situation, a quarterback like Derek Carr, especially, you have to get in his face, in those situations, because this could have been a completely different ball game if some of those receivers caught the ball.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're asking a lot of defenders to cover for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. That's not going to happen in this league. I don't care if you're Jalen Ramsey, Deion Sanders in his prime. Like, you cannot cover a guy for 8 seconds. That they get paid too. So I think that's a situation where Sean Desai and their coaching staff needs to get together and say, okay, let's look at the tape, right? First to second down, we're doing a pretty good job on the rushes. Some of those play actions we're converting. We're able to get pressure in his face. We're able to get home. Hey, on these third and longs, hey, let's bring 2 guys off the edge. Let's tighten up the coverage a little bit to buy that rush a second, right? And then in a situation, let's show that same look, right? Like we're coming, and they're going to check that protection that way. And then let's bring him from this edge and let's drop everybody else. You gotta dial it up. You got to trick them. You got to keep them on their toes. It's like the same thing calling offenses, right? Keeping people off balance. Same thing with defenses, right? We're going to throw a fastball with the front four, fastball. And then what do they do with Khalil Mack? The exit stunt, right? Oh, he's going up the field. Boom, boom, picks him. And then you know what off that? They run the coffee house. So that's where Khalil Mack takes 2 steps, acts like he's going to pick him again, comes back outside. But the real victor in this is the defensive tackle, right? So he hits the guard, looks out like he's going to go here. And the guard's nervous because he saw Khalil Mack get on a sack. And then he just goes through. So that's what they call the old coffee.
It's called hot coffee house.
yeah. That's what Rod Marinelli used to dial up. A guy like Tommy Harris was one of the best at that, because I think they'd have so many eyes on him. And, when a guard gets picked by a defensive end, he gets hit in the ear hole. And then that end comes free for a sack. He's worried that the same thing's going to happen. So as soon as that tackle looks this way, he's looking back at Khalil Mack. And that's when you act like you're coming this way, throw him by. And then because the protection is sliding the other way, so the center doesn't have help. And then all of a sudden you have a clean sack. You got him. It was a great move. So these are certain things they can do. But I love them showing the exit. So maybe next time we'll see a coffee house. And you'll be like, texting me, Corey, that was the coffee house. And I'm not talking about Starbucks.
Free brand muffin with every sack. I love that. That's an excellent breakdown. I got a couple of thoughts about everything that you just said. One, in terms of week 1 against the Rams, I think Bears fans look outside the NFL just a little bit and ask yourselves the question, are we going to look back on week 1 and say, did it mean anything for a lot of teams? The Packers got their butts beat by the Saints. Bills lose to the Steelers. Now, those are 2 teams that have risen up and have completely – they don't even play the same type of game anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of curious if this defense, hopefully that is the outlier, and we're beginning to see a little bit more of the norm moving forward. And a great point, too, because I kind of want to get into, before we switch over the offense, I just want to get into a little bit of the penalties and a player's mindset when a game that, by all accounts, was incredibly physical. Some called it a back alley brawl. And 2, just on a day when I think that, the Zebras are throwing the bananas out there a little bit more often than normal. And in terms of your pass rush, I think we had a lot of opportunities where, just arbitrary numbers, 2nd and 17, where the Raiders had the ball, and we were just giving up 9-10 yards. Just giving it to them, literally, trying to keep it in front of us when really we can maybe trying to really impose our will on them. But my question for you is in regards to those penalties, just talk about the physical nature of that, because, as a Bears fan, one person sees Mario Edwards get a couple of, unsportsmanlike penalties in that game. And then I see someone like Olin Kreutz after the game saying stuff like, hey, good for him, man. If the game's going to get that kind of physical, you eventually, you want to do it all within the letter of the law, and sometimes stuff extends beyond plays. But just talk about that a little bit, because I don't think a fan like myself or our listeners right now are watching the game and we're going, Mario Edwards, you idiot, it's a first down now and all that stuff. But talk about what it's like being in the heat of the battle when there are a lot of, personal fouls flying around, some helmet-to-helmet stuff. It's getting nasty out there. Your quarterback's getting beat up. And you can't just sit there, right, and be like, ref, did you see that? Like, you got to kind of maybe like get your hands dirty a little bit, right? Is that kind of a little bit of the mentality of yesterday?
Yeah, I think it comes to a situation where, nowadays they're very cognizant, the refs that is, of these personal fouls, right? If that play with Mario Edwards, 5, 6, 7, 8 10 years ago, 20 years ago, would never have been an issue, right? In this day and age, they're trying to protect people. That used to be a great play, right? Because you made a great tackle on the thing, and you want to impose your will on somebody, throw them to the ground, and keep your chest out and say, "Yeah, I'm coming for you all day." Like,
Don't
that's
do it
how
again,
was.
right? Or you know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what, to combat that, right? If they didn't like what Mario Edwards does, you know what happens? A guy like Olin Kreutz when he played, or Richie Incognito, right? They would come and push the crap out of that dude and talk mess right in his face. Say, okay, do that again. Do that again. I'm gonna knock you, and that would be the thing. And that's how it should be, obviously, people start throwing punches or whatever, but a little jawing and jabbing and pushing each other after the whistle, that's football, right? Especially in between the trenches. But this game, in some regards, has become very soft in certain aspects, right? And I understand, because of the stigma with everything, and the brain issues and everything that comes with football. They're trying to make it safer. I commend them for that, right? Because there's some people that have had many issues after they were done with football. But at the same time, right, now everybody knows what's going on. Yes, let's make it safer. Great. But you have to let the physical component, be there, right? I understand the helmet to helmet stuff, but hits, shoulder hits, forearm hits, you have to let that go, right? And then you got to let the guys talk mess in between the whistle, right?
Seriously.
Derek Carr and Khalil Mack were talking back and forth to each other the whole game. That's how it should be.
And they didn't throw a flag, right? Like,
no,
letter of the law.
but I think because they know their relationship, right? Because these are two of the top players in the league, or for their teams, and they know their relationship. So, get back. But I guarantee you, if that was, Khalil Mack and another quarterback that he didn't know well, like Derek Carr, he probably would have got a flag for that, honestly. And that's what this league is becoming. And you're like, come on, we have to let them play. Like the taunting. That. I understand it sometimes, but at the same time, if you make a big play and you really rock somebody, and you stand over and be like, let's go, like this or something like that, like you have to let them play the game. That's why we watch it, right? Because we want to see that, right? And then what do you do if you get hit like that? Next time you catch a ball, what do? You spin it on the ground and you go first down, right? That's what people do. That's part of the game. That's what makes it fun, right? You look at when people play basketball or whatever, you dunk on somebody, you stare over them, and that's it is what it is. That's how
I was just gonna
be.
say in basketball too, because I can't dunk, but when I play though, man, like when you're playing in a physical game and you get that offensive board in the paint, and you go and you fight through three guys, you get that board in the paint, you go back up and it's an and one, and you get the bucket, like.
And what? Let's go.
Yeah, it comes out of you. It just comes out. Even Justin Fields, after his first touchdown pass, he'd been getting knocked around the whole game. Those that touchdown pass, gets knocked down, gets up and goes like this.
Yeah,
that's the mentality of that game yesterday. It was physical.
Exactly, and that's how it should be, because that's what makes it fun. That's why we tune in, because we want to see the reactions of people. We want to see after they get the sack, after they get a touchdown or first down, what they're going to do. Right after somebody completely, drops somebody coming across the middle in a legal way, right? We want to see them get up and say, we want to see that. Or we want to see when a running back trucks somebody, right? I want to see him get up and, flex on them and say, yeah, like that's what makes us tune in, right? Because of the emotion, the intensity of it, right? We want to see that. We don't want people to be robots and be like, you got to act like you've been there, like the coaches always used to say, yeah, oh, he's been there a bunch of times, but hey, he's having fun. If you're not having fun out there, what are we doing? At this point in the game. So that's why you just need to let them play. I understand they're trying to do this, or they're trying to show, oh, well, kids, we don't want kids to do what they're doing or whatever. But listen, as long as you're not giving anybody the finger, you're not being disrespectful, you're not punching anybody in the face, you're just talking mess, you're having fun, let them play, right? Like that's what makes it interesting. And I just hope that they'll let them play sometimes and not, because you see in certain games, depending on the refs, the ones that give people a little more leniency, and the ones that are kind of like, oh, let's throw a flag here. Let's throw a flag here. Oh yeah, he just clapped for a second. Oh, flag. Come on. Like let them play. So that's the biggest thing I want to see, but I think they're just trying to make an effort to cut that out of the game. But that's what makes it interesting. Like we love those matchups, right? We love when Steve Smith, the wide receiver that used to play for Carolina, would talk mess all the time. And that's what made people want to tune in. What is he going to say after the game? Him and Janoris Jenkins that one time, Janoris Jenkins said something about his wife, and then he got into it. People want to see that stuff. That's what makes the game interesting. And, people just get up all the time and just say, yeah, great job. Nobody's going to
That's the hypocrisy, man. As a fan, I'll tell you something right now. When I'm watching these games, and I bet a lot of people listening feel the exact same way. When my Bears team gets this big sack or we score a touchdown, you know what comes out of me, Corey? Unbridled joy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm yelling, I'm clapping, I'm walking around, I'm stomping around, man. Like you're not you would definitely throw a penalty flag in my house for my
Yeah.
celebrations after they score touchdowns. So to expect that from the people that are out there, the professional athletes, these elite players, to bottle it up after they hear that word hike and put everything they can into that play,
Mhm.
all your training, all of your scouting, your game planning, dude, like, and you get back there and you finally get to that quarterback and he's on the ground, man. I just can't imagine what that feeling is like for you, and for someone to say that you can't do that or act a certain way. And the whole thing about like where the celebration thing is being directed towards is
Mhm.
so silly, man. It's so
I know.
ridiculous. Like half the time you get up and you just so happen to maybe be facing that person or whatever. I don't know. I call BS on it big time.
Yeah, it's just a reaction. Like we're all gonna react how we react, right? Like I said, as long as it's not disrespectful to the point where you're giving somebody a finger, you're not letting them get up off the ground, you're mushing them in the head, something like that. But if you're just talking back and forth and you maybe chest bump or you push each other like that, and then it is what it is. That's part of football. That's
Yeah.
what they always let go on. It was just when people would throw punches or things like that, or somebody get thrown to the ground,
Well, yeah,
then
don't
it would
spit in
become an
anybody's
issue.
face.
Yeah,
Don't throw a punch. Don't take off your helmet or use your
exactly.
helmet. Obviously, we learned that
Yeah.
one through Miles Garrett. There's obviously some major no-nos. Real quick before we switch over to the offense, if you could hand out a game ball for the defense, where's that game ball going towards? Robert Quinn was in the backfield. He was making tackles in the running game. He was going sideline to sideline. Khalil Mack, seven solo
Exactly.
tackles. That's a big one with a sack
Yeah,
and a 2 point. Roquan Smith all over the field. Game ball. Where are you going?
I'm gonna go Khalil Mack, right, against his old team. So you know he was amped up to play Derek Carr and company. After John Gruden said, "Oh, we didn't need him anyway." Yeah, I think he did a little bit. Just a little bit. But he was all over the place. I mean, the pressures, the hits. I wish they changed that rule about 2 point conversions. Like that's an actual play. It should count as a sack.
It was the biggest play of the
It-
game, Corey. We were talking about a
exactly.
pre-pod. It was 14-9. If he doesn't come up with that second, it gets to 14-11. Bears fans, we've watched enough Bears games. That next drive becomes really critical. And if it's a 3-and-out or something, that tide completely flips in that game. Different story, possibly.
100%. And I think people just sleep on Khalil Mack a lot of times because I feel like everyone knows who he is and everybody knows how great of a player he is. But when they say, like, oh, the best pass rushers in the league, he doesn't come to mind. You know, I think the thing is what people fail to realize sometimes is how valuable he is in every aspect of the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I've said this from the beginning, Robert Quinn, what people had against him his whole career has been, oh, he rushes well, but he can't play the run. And he's done the complete opposite this year. But Khalil Mack, what makes him stand out is for being such a Pro Bowl, all pro caliber guy, defensive end. He's a guy that plays the run, is one of the best run stuffers in the league, even comparing him to like a 3-4 end, just the way he plays the run. And then he's productive as a pass rusher. Then the big plays, he could, sack fumbles, strips,
Yeah.
fumble recoveries, interceptions. He can do it all. He can drop into coverage. So I think he is the most balanced, top to bottom defensive end out there. Like there's nothing he cannot do out there. I think that's what separates him from anybody else in the league. And in my opinion, if you're talking about most valuable player for a team, I think he's up there for sure. People always go to, well, okay, well, we got to go to the quarterback or we got to go to the receiver. If you look at the MVP of the Bears defense, I think it's got to be Khalil Mack, just because even when he's not having the sacks that we want to, just the attention he commands. Right. And then if he's not rushing how, people want him to, he's playing the run well. So that's the thing. Like not everybody's going to give you everything you want every game. And I think fans always look at it like, okay, well, he didn't have 1 sack or 2 sacks in this game. Oh man, but when you see sometimes the pressure that somebody gets in someone's face, like in this game, looking at the game, watching it, I'm like, it seemed like he had 4 sacks in there just because of the amount of pressure he had. He was in Carr's face all day, hitting them, talking. And that impact affected Derek Carr for sure, because he was nervous. Roquan hit him, Khalil Mack hit him, Khalil Mack's talking. So those are like in a boxing match, right? The body blows. And after a while, right, this is back-to-back weeks for Derek Carr, right? With the Chargers and now the Bears. So he's been hit a lot. So I think you have him thinking. And sometimes it's all it takes is some of those body blows over a game to really wear somebody down. And then stuffing the run, making them one-dimensional. You have him thinking, and then you have his receivers thinking because of your physicality. So I think that starts with the Khalil Mack. He sets the tone out there from the first play. I think everybody feeds off that, like him and Roquan. I think people feed off that, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I think the Browns game was the biggest wake up call for this Bears offense, defense, special team, everything. And I think every team needs that one bad game, like awful game where you're like, we shouldn't even been out there. Like we should have got blown out by 50. Like in that game, they should have. I mean, the Browns controlled every point of that game. And I think it was a wake up call for them. And they're like, listen, we can only go up from here. We got to control what we got to do. We got to rally up together. We need to get the play calling better. And defense was probably like, listen, we got a young guy out there. We have to rally up together. We have to set the tone. We have to be the team right now, right? We got to set the tone for stuff. We got to give the young buck confidence, right? That he doesn't have to light it up. And that's what you're seeing, right? And I said, you do it with the running game. And you look at the past two games. The running game has allowed the team to win, right? Because Justin Fields didn't light it up by any means. But the defense and the running game, that's how you win games in this league. And that's what the Bears are showing. And those are the recipes for wins every week. If you could play great defense, you could run the football, and limit your turnovers. That's the key to winning.
Khalil Mack on pace for 15 sacks right now. So maybe we can just kind of put a period on an excellent point that you just made, Corey. And you're bringing up a perfect segue because I kind of want to move over to the offense now. Mm-hmm. And there's a long road and you go week to week, and a lot of the coach speak going in and out of House Hall right now is about identity. And I think that the Bears have started to kind of build upon that the last couple of weeks. They've ran the ball 37 times or more for 2 weeks in a row for the first time since 1989, Corey. So how about that? That's some Neil Anderson style running. But, we're talking defense. We're switching over to the offense right now. I'm just kind of starting to feel oddly like, I don't want to say like pieces are falling in place, but there's a weird cohesion going on right now that I think is really, really promising for hopefully sustained success the rest of the season. We're talking about defense right now with Khalil Mack's playing well. Robert Quinn's having a resurgent season. Roquan Smith is, he's the vocal voice after the games as well. But, he really is, it slowly is kind of turning into the futures of the Bears defense is going to be Roquan Smith. And then you go to the offensive side of the ball. Bill Lazor is calling plays. I don't know. I'm fascinated by watching Matt Nagy on the sidelines with his hands on his knees, talking to all three phases of the team, being the head coach that we had kind of asked about for several weeks. And now it seems to be, I don't know, it seems to be a good look on him. I'm not so sure. I just think that there's a kind of a cohesion where everyone's kind of learning their roles a little bit on this Bears team. And I think it starts with this running game. If you don't mind, I'd like to start there offensively. Let's just talk about Damian Williams, Khalil Herbert, this offensive line, and what you're seeing out there, because it's been successful the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And we look at kind of Bill Lazor's game planning, right? It seems like a 2-to-1 run to pass kind of ratio. And I think that's the sweet spot. I've said this from the beginning of the season. I think they need to be a run first team. I think that's going to open everything else up. And you look at early on the first couple drives, they couldn't really get the running game going like we saw against the Lions, right? And that's how it is. It's I told you, it's a slow progression. Some games you're going to come out, everything's going to be flowing right. The holes are going to be there. You're going to be getting those chunk runs, 8, 10, 12, 15-yard runs. And in this game, we didn't see that, right? But as the game wore on, right, you wear the other team down, and that's when you're seeing some of these chunk runs towards the end. So it's a process, and I think Bill Lazor understands that, which I love about his game planning is he sticks. He's like, this is the plan that I'm going to do, and I don't have a problem with it if it's running the football, because, like I said, it's like a war of attrition out there. You continue to go, continue to grind it, and as it was going, that's how they're able to get first down, sustain drives, win that game. And you see guys like Khalil Herbert, which I was excited. I know you love Khalil Herbert out there running. You see one of the runs towards the end of the game where it looked like he was going to be stopped 3 yards short.
He's
and
like
just chugging those legs. I
right in
mean,
the guy's diaphragm, and then his legs just go pop, 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 and the guy's like, oh,
like, exactly. And that reminded me of a guy I played against, Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch.
Ooh, I was gonna take another guess, man. A buddy of mine texted me. We said muscle hamster. We said Doug Martin a little bit. Any of that?
Okay.
Any of that?
Yeah, I see a little Doug Martin, but just the strength. I mean, if you look at Khalil Herbert, I mean, him and Damian Williams are both pretty put together guys that are quick, really strong lower and upper bodies. It was impressive to watch them out there grinding out some of these after contact yards. And that's what you love to see. Khalil Herbert, it's a chance for him to step up and showcase what he can do. And that way they can give David Montgomery time because they don't have to rush him back. Remember, I told you in this league, right? You have to be cautious about certain injuries, right? Knees and backs. Give David Montgomery as much time. And I think they showed that Williams and Herbert with that combo, hey, it's not exactly David Montgomery, but having, 143 yards rushing, them averaging, almost 5 yards a pop together is pretty great. So I'm hoping that they can just continue the running game. And like I said, when you run the game, when you run the ball and then stuff starts opening up towards the end of the game, what happened with Justin Fields on some of those long passes, when he threaded the needle to Mooney, Cole Kmet in there, that opens up all of that. And I think that's the effect of the running game. And like I said, early on, it wasn't the best. Just continue working at it, keep chopping that wood. Like they used to say at Rutgers, chop that wood. And then all of a sudden it opened up, that passing game towards the end when we needed to complete some of those first downs. So I just love the game planning because, hey, it's not pretty. And everybody knows that at times it's not going to be pretty with things, but hey, the past couple of weeks, what has it resulted in? A win, right? Yeah. And everything is better when you win. Doesn't matter, right? People aren't saying, well, the Bears, this is not the best, and we're not having 500 yards. Everybody's happy in Chicago. You know why? Defense is playing well. Yeah, and they're not turning the ball over, and they're getting wins. And what's important now? Winning the football game. And I don't care if they win every game like this, right? When the 85 Bears, went on that run and they won, they won some games, and you're like, but who cares if it's an ugly win, a pretty win? It's a win. Yeah. And wins are hard to come by in this league. And I think, now that the way they have everything with Matt Nagy, kind of managing all three phases, how it should have always been. And, Bill Lazor calling the offensive play, Sean Desai, dealing with that, So I think everything is the way it should be. And I think we're just going to continue seeing everything get better with the team. And I think the offense is going to continue to get better. But I think, the biggest thing is Justin Fields just has to get a little more comfortable out there. And the Lions game, I thought he was comfortable. This week, I didn't see that same comfort. And Oakland had a pretty good plan for him. They were playing well. And like I said, Rod Marinelli really had that defensive line pressuring them, running some games and stunts. I thought the coverage was well. So I thought Oakland had a really good plan for Justin Fields. And the thing is, every week, they're gonna try to bring their best game plan because of how dynamic he is as a player. So if we could continue to get that running game going, like really get it going from the start of the game, get some of those gashing runs and then have some of those draws and screens and keep people off balance, I think it's going to open up some of those passes like we saw in the Lions game where he was really able to flourish.
Yeah, Justin Fields is on deck. We're going to hit it in 1 second. I got a lot of questions for you with that. Real quick, though, before we do that, do you think we continue to see Alex Bars more? Obviously, I really like what Jimmy Graham's run blocking right now. It's actually pretty impressive, and Cole Kmet is actually proven to be a pretty positive run blocker as well as they continue to try and target him more in the passing game. But bringing out Alex Bars yesterday, for you, as an opponent, maybe if you were on the other side of the field, what's going through your mindset when that happens? Is it kind of like oh man, now we got to deal with this? Because I'm just trying to continue to talk about this value of attrition when you're running the football. Then you bring out that extra guy. I mean, it's like, oh man, what's next?
Exactly. You bring this 300+ pound offensive lineman as the extra tackle in there, And it's awesome because I think it just they're thinking, oh, we're running this way. They're running this way. So all the attention goes on there. And I like my eyes on Alex Barr, blocking there as a tight end, as an extra lineman in there. And I think they're going to continue to do more of that. And I think, immediately as a defensive end, when you just go out there, when there's extra lineman, you're like, okay, you're face to face with him. You're not on an edge. This is going to be a tough matchup on a guy that can run block. So it's just a different element out there. And I think every end usually hates that situation because, this league has become, hey, tight ends don't like the block, even though Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham are doing a great job. Majority of the league, they don't like the block. They don't like to get dirty in there. So, you like that matchup against a tight end when you're a defensive end. You're like, oh, I could ragdoll this guy. He just wants to catch the ball. He wants to be a Darren Waller. He wants to be, one of those guys. So I think they definitely hate when an extra O lineman comes in because this guy is ready to drive you off the ball. He's been fresh all game. He's just has his first play right there. He hasn't been going through the whole course of a game like Jason Peters or Fadi in there. So
yeah, I can just imagine, you're on maybe like the 12th or 13th rush of the game. They're kind of beating you up a little bit, and then they bring the extra guy out, and you're just like,
come on, man.
All right, all right, let's
hold on, coach. Time out. cramp.
Ooh, my calf, help. Let's you teased it. Let's get into Justin Fields. If it's okay, man, I want to ask you some things that might feel a little bit more on the critical side because I do want to get to some positives that I think are big picture positives and also in-game positives that I really, really liked. But let's just start first with a little bit of what you're talking about, of that confidence and getting him a little bit more comfortable, I think, earlier in the game. And it's a delicate balance, right? Because we're getting off the bus running the football right now, but it is important that Justin Fields makes good decisions within a football game. If I could be – the biggest criticism for me right now is that every game that he's played in so far, once or twice a game, we're in like a 2nd and 22. Whether it's a delay a game or whether, it's just that one play that he just doesn't make the best decision in the world. He either takes a sack. Yesterday it was throwing a lateral for a 7-yard loss. That's fine. Rookies are going to make those mistakes, but, we're playing the Packers and the Buccaneers coming up, and I'm telling you guys right now that if we keep doing those 2nd and 22, 2nd and 27s, something really bad is going to happen, turnover-wise, and we're kind of playing with fire from that respect. So in your opinion, what do you think – what can we do, from Bill Lazor's perspective? We want to run the football right off the bat, but we want to get Justin Fields comfortable. I felt like at times, later in the game, when they just started doing like, hey, man, you're going to hike, you're going to turn around, and you're just going to throw to A-Rob. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be there. Like, forget about it. Set it, forget it. Don't read the defense. There's no 1-2 progression. Just pop. He's going to be right there. Do they need to incorporate more of that? How can they get him in a rhythm while still doing the running game and hopefully opening it up for later opportunities later in the game?
Yeah. So did you see that Tiger Woods documentary at all?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see when his dad had taught him, hey, kiss, keep it stupid simple, right? And I think that's what it comes down to, honestly. Yeah. I think that's philosophy. Bill Lazor and Matt Nagy need to be with Justin Fields and say, listen, on that play where honestly we thought he tore his ACL where he hyperextended it, that's a play where he should have ran the ball. Or if you're in a situation where it's not there, throw it out of bounds. You need to get the ball out because we dodged a bullet right there. That could have been a bad situation. But that's another thing where that was a sack right there and almost is out for the year because he's just holding the ball. So he just has to have that clock. And you look at the guy that they're playing, Aaron Rodgers, this week. In practice, they have a clock out there, a play clock that I think it's like a siren every 3 seconds to be able to get the ball out there, just to know that they're not holding it too long, right? And I think that has to be in his head, right? 1, 2, 3. If it's not there, hey, let's turn and run. Once we get on the run, hey, is it down the field? Is it not? Okay, let me run the football, or let me throw it out of bounds, or let me hit somebody down the field. I think they just need to simplify it for him and give him 2 reads at this point. And then, hey, if it's not there, tuck it and go, right? And get in a situation where you keep yourself up from being hurt, right? You get out of bounds real quick, you slide, you don't take these hits, right? Because we want to avoid a Robert Griffin situation, right? When he got to a point where he's running the football and then he got to
sweeps, dude.
Exactly.
A little while. I hear what you've been saying it too, of like, those RPOs, he's had those open areas. I don't know if Justin Fields, I don't even know if it's confidence. I think it's maybe just more feel. Like, it's not that he doesn't have an ability. I don't think he has a feel for running the football yet. Exactly. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think they have to have certain situations where they run that RPO, where maybe they have a tight end in there that kind of avoids the defensive end. And then you give the defensive end a chance to read, that progression, right? And then a defensive end or the end is in there, the tight end. And then he has a situation where he acts like he's blocking, and then pops out, for that security blanket. And I think that's a situation where it can give him the confidence that maybe, hey, if I don't want to I don't want to run, I have the dunk down to Jimmy Graham or Cole Kmet. And that's a situation where you're working that running game. And then if Justin Fields decides to pull it, then you have Cole Kmet as an extra blocker as well. And with the option to go down the field.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, on another one too is, and we haven't seen a lot of it, is just is a concentrated boot. Where on the Jesper Horsted touchdown, in my opinion, kind of happened because Fields made a great play, but also because that linebacker had to stay home on him. He wasn't able to kind of take away that throwing lane a little bit.
Exactly.
If you play some games with him where, like, if the linebacker's going to come up, we're going to find something underneath, and if he stays home with the crossing route, Justin Fields then has maybe the confidence to move forward and pick up some yards.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think the way they were running the football in that second half, really grinding them down, that's when you do those hard boots, where you give him the opportunity to get on that edge, right? And then the pass rush is not a factor, because you're telling me Max Crosby, who I think is a great player, he's not running with Justin Fields. I'm sorry. And I think that's about 99% of the league. So I think that's a situation where you run the ball, and then all of a sudden you do a hard play action boot where he comes around and he has that option to turn that corner, look down the field, look for the Cole Kmet across, if that's your security blanket in there. And and the sprint outs too, right? Don't sleep on the sprint outs, because that's a situation where you can hit that edge and, hit some of those out routes to Allen Robinson or Mooney in there, or you have the crosser coming across as well. So there's a lot of different options out there, but I think he's most comfortable, what we've seen, with some boots, I think some sprint outs and some hard play actions, where you have that max protect.
Play action, yeah.
He seems very comfortable in that, because what I can tell from him is that bounce he has in his step when he has that hard play action look. And that's what I love from him, because he's boom, 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 and then delivering that strike. So that's what we need to see more of. And he seems very comfortable in the gun. And you pointed that out. I think he loves being in the gun. And that's a situation where, hey, some mix and match, right? And in certain situations where we got to get that first down, the defense knows we got to throw it. Hey, get him in that gun. He's 1-2, likes to go. So that or the hard play action looks, I think that's where he's most comfortable. So the combination of that with the sprint outs and the boots, I think that's where we need to go, especially establishing that running game, because that's going to be able to open everything up. Then you keep them off balance like the Lions game. Then we're able to mix and match some of those dropbacks in there.
It's a delicate dance, because I think a lot of people, and we've been doing it too, is we've been singing the praises of us committing to that running game early and often, and even if it doesn't work right away, and that patience and conviction to keep doing it, and then we're finding success with it. But at the same time, I really think we need to start kind of figuring out ways to pick our spots to get Justin a little bit more comfortable earlier in the game. I'm not saying anything that's groundbreaking here. I think there's a lot more that can be unearthed with Justin's game and his talent, and I think it really is kind of more of a confidence and rhythm thing more than an ability thing right now. Because as you thought, let's get to the good stuff. I want to talk about some of the good stuff now. That throw on 3rd and 12 to Darnell Mooney. Beautiful throw, right? I mean, and that's stuff that we haven't seen at the quarterback position a lot over the last couple of years. Next play, pop, hits Cole Kmet again. That's the stuff that he's going to be capable of on a regular basis moving forward in his career. Maybe not quite there right now. But again, like, he is capable of making those throws. And, I think I'm just going to say it. A lot of people are like, we got to get him running all the time and stuff. Like, I love creating plays where defense has to make options and decisions out of that stuff. But, like, I really love how he likes staying in the pocket. He wants to do it from there personally.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly
see failing the same way that maybe some other quarterbacks in this town have bailed when that first or second read wasn't there. And, also I'm dying to hear your perspective on this. It's kind of a cliche, but man, the dude is tough. He's tough, man. I mean, yesterday was an easy game, and I think he was a lot more hurt than people want to realize.
Yep.
And man, not a not a grimace or not really anything. I guess there was
Yeah.
a report that he was going to puke on the sideline after that hit in the back of the ribs, just because the wind got knocked out of him so bad.
Yeah.
Puke,
Yeah.
And it's just like, just talk about that, man. I mean, I think
Yeah.
the kid is worth rallying around. I think I'll put it that way.
Oh, 100%. I think guys bought to that. They gravitate to a guy like that because think about it. Everyone thought he was done for the season. You know, when they showed the replay on the Jumbotron and they're seeing his knee hyperextend, I think they're all thinking, oh, shoot, he just tore his ACL. And then 3 plays later, he comes out the tent, goes back in, and everyone's like, whoa. And then taking that hit, like you said, you know, in the ribs, possibly could have it, you know, some bruised ribs, some, you know, we don't know the extent of it, but just showing the toughness that this kid has, you know, because I think most people after that scary of a hyperextending your knee, whether you were truly injured or not, I think you'd be nervous in there, you know, and I think just the way he bounced back and got better as the game went along, and then has his first touchdown in there. I think the guys really buy into that. And I think the defense, especially, they're going to want to play for a guy like that. They're going to be, hey, let's put our neck on the line for this guy. Let's do it for the team. Let's do it for him. He's a tough guy. I think he has everybody's respect, and it's great to see such a young guy that people are rallying around. And I think he's a leader. And I think as things progress in this offense, I think he's really going to shine. And I think, like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all about comfort for him. And I think, you know, anything in life, you know, when you're playing football, and especially in the quarterback position, it's a rhythm, right? And he hasn't had those same reps with the receivers that Andy Dalton had in the offseason. So listen, this is only his, you know, really third game and second game of actual whole game planning with just him as the guy. So I think it's going to take some time. And I think, you know, we're all expecting him to light it up. And I think we're not being honest or real with just reality. You know, I think it takes time in this league, and especially if he didn't have an offseason with the receivers, working the ins and outs of the routes, you know, the breaks, the progression, the timing of stuff. And we saw as the game goes on, it gets better for him. But it's just about starting, you know, that first drive, second drive. We don't see that consistency that we see with some other quarterbacks around the league, you know, but which I think is really promising because he adjusts. And I just wish they would have gave him those same reps with the ones throughout the offseason, because I think he would have hit the ground running from week one if he would have been the starter. So I think we just need to continue just to trust that it's going to continue to get better with him and the receivers. And that's half of everything in this league when it comes to the relationship between the quarterbacks and the receivers. They know, you look at, like, you know, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, who were playing this week, right? They're on the same page all the time. He knows when he's going to turn. They have ESP.
Yeah.
They'll be like, turn. And it's not even designed that way. He'll know he's turning. He know when he goes like this, he's turning this way. And then all of a sudden the ball will be there before he's even there. That's what happens when you work stuff with people, you know, throughout off season, throughout years. That's the type of stuff that you build up. And we're going to see that get better, but yeah, it just didn't start out that way. And, you know, with everything with COVID and him not being the guy, he just doesn't have the experience with these receivers.
I think it's fair if you want to be critical of what I'm about to say, but this was probably the first week that our hopeful future franchise quarterback and our number one receiver looked like what you're talking about, had a little bit of that chemistry. Because just, you know, Justin Fields would hike under center, he would turn around, just plant, and he would just toss it, just knowing that A-Rob was going to be there. And they're starting to get to the point where he goes, hey, if I put the ball up to A-Rob, he's going to make me look good, and he's going to come down to that catch. It's week 5, and we're just getting to that now. Good news that we're getting into it now, but I'm with you, man. We will always kind of wonder, though, what could have been. I will also say, though, we have to be very fair, that Andy Dalton came into this game and picked up a pretty big 3rd and 6.
Yeah, he did.
And you know what? I'll say it again. Don't bury Andy Dalton. He's a superb backup. He should not be the starter. But again, it's kind of nice to have depth at that particular position moving forward. And in regards to Justin Fields, it's just so funny that, you know, when you start to look at all these different things, and if you kind of take that broad picture of it, this game was set up very similar to the Browns, right? I mean, a quarterback that no one really kind of buys or trusts, solid. Team that has multiple running backs. I think a defense that I don't want to say talent level is equivalent, but probably both very physical on the road.
Mhm.
And Justin came in there and protected the football. We were able to run the football. And then in the second half made some plays. And then after, the Raiders did score that touchdown, it was 14-9. They missed the 2-point, so it stayed 14-9. Justin Fields came down and he got a field goal. And you want to know what else that I really liked, Corey, and I want to hear your opinion on this is I'm a big proponent of it's one of those things where like if you see a lot of holding penalties on the offense, as a defense, you're like, okay, wait, this is going to have to stop pretty soon, and we're going to start having success. Conversely, there's a lot of penalties going on, on the Raiders defense. They finally threw up that deep ball to A-Rob, PI. Oh,
Yep.
what a concept. There's a lot of bananas on the field. Let's take that shot. Let's go for it. Let's
Exactly.
And they were able to drive down the field and get a very crucial field goal, in my opinion, to make it 17-9. And that's progress just from only 2 or 3 weeks ago from that Browns game.
Exactly. That's huge to see. And I think the biggest thing what has changed, right, is just not abandoning the run game. And I think in that Browns game when Matt Nagy was calling the plays, he abandoned the run game way too early. And I've always said this. I think situation where, hey, if you're in the fourth quarter and you need 2-3 scores and you haven't been doing well offensively, that's when you have to do the 2-minute style offense. Hurry up, let's get to the line. But anything, 2 scores, I think is a situation like where you can continue to run the ball. And I think that was Matt Nagy's biggest problem was the fact that he abandoned the run game when the game was still tight. In that Browns game is 10-3 at halftime. And you're like, oh, okay, it's a 1-score game. Let's go. But no, 3 consecutive passes in that first drive in the second half when you get the ball, right? You get a 3 and out, 3 consecutive passes. You're like, what? That's the stuff that I'm like, okay. And then I see Bill Lazor being like, okay, we're gonna run the football, right? And I'm gonna take the pressure off Justin Fields. And that's what it should have been from day one. That's what we've been preaching. And I just love that he's actually committing to the run game and going with it, right? Because it didn't work at first. And we're like, let's keep chipping away. Let's keep doing this. And then all of a sudden, that's when you grind them out. And towards the end of the game, their defense was tired because when a team runs the ball majority of the time, teams hate that. As a defensive player, defensive end, defensive lineman, you hate when they run the ball. You like when they get past the ball because you're like, hey, I need to get these sacks. And then all of a sudden, you're like, hey, I'm taking on these double teams all day, especially the interior guys. A lot of times you're like, oh man, where's on you? And then you get tired, you get frustrated, you're not making the plays you want to. And then it becomes a mental thing for the defense. They're like, oh man, we can't stop them on, second and short. We can't stop them on third and short. And then it gets a situation where they're deflated. And then all of a sudden you bring in some of those passing plays and they're not able to defend it like Justin Fields was towards the end of the game. So I just loved sticking to it, right? Because it wasn't pretty at times, but you grind them out and you outrushed them, you outperformed them in mostly every aspect of the game, except the passing game. Derek Carr had more passing yards. But what they did to stop Derek Carr was unbelievable because you've seen in the games before these last 2 weeks, he's really went off when Waller and Ruggs and some of these guys, Renfro. So I think it was just a great game, and it looks like a boring game. People say, oh, the Bears is not pretty, it's not this. But like I said, hey, I'll take this type of win all day because, running the football, playing great defense, that's how you win football games. And people could say, oh, it's not, how Peyton Manning used to play where he put up 50, 60 points. The other team would score 50. But hey, I like this type of football. This is grind them out, this Chicago Bear type of football, and I like it. So I think as we go on, we're gonna see the passing game open up for sure. I think it's just gonna take time, and I think the biggest thing is just the rhythm with him and the receivers. And I'm just hoping that we could see that from the beginning. Okay, like, hey, A-Rob, what route you like? Okay, Justin, what route do you feel comfortable starting this game off with, right? I like a little 10-yard out, right? A-Rob, okay? Cheated in a little inside, okay? And then, as soon as you, right before you hit that break, I'm going to have the ball there, all right? You're going to get it, right? Okay, great. And just being on the same page with stuff like that, hey, Mooney, when you hit that little post route, okay? I know the safety is going to be over the top, but as soon as before you're about to, I'm going to put it there, right? Hey, he might be on you quick. Catch that and get down. Stuff like that, just being on the same page and certain situations like that, because in defenses, there's always spots, especially in the zone coverage and some of those cover twos and something like that, where there's a little spot that it can open up. And I think once they get more comfortable with each other, they're going to see that ball being delivered, at times like we saw in the game, before the defenders could even get there, throwing stripes. And we're going to see that as games go on. I think confidence is the key. And towards the end of the game, I saw a lot more confident Justin Fields. And that's what we're going to see as the season progresses.
Yeah, and I just think if you get it a little bit earlier in the game, I think you can continue to build on it because I think he has the capability and ability to take it to different levels moving forward. And yeah, it's not like basketball, but you do want to try and it's not ideal. It doesn't always happen, but you want to try and get everyone a touch, right?
Exactly.
Early in the game as you possibly can, get everyone engaged and get kind of everyone into that flow a little bit. And also to your point, if you pull up the box score and you didn't watch the game yesterday, Bears were 6 of 13 on third down, which is pretty good. And that's I would say that's damn good for a rookie quarterback across the board. Raiders had 10 drives. Bears had 10 drives. Raiders had 259 total yards. We had 252. Yards per pass, we were 4.7. They were 4.9. Yards per rush, we were 4.2. They were 4.3. I mean, there was a lot of similarities there, but I think that what we did and what you're talking about, I think that the scheming and the execution and stuff is what made it the 11-point victory that it was. I want a quick shout out to Cairo Santos, just real quick.
Yeah.
We're not asking a lot from the dude, but the dude's a closer, right? I mean, we can ice him the whole game.
He
Comes in and he just drops him right down the middle of the fairway. That's what we like to see here on Believe in Bears. That's how we like to. That's how
right
out there, right? Final topic, and this is just kind of a quick teaser before Believe in Bears returns Thursday morning to preview Bears Packers. But I kind of want to get your opinion on how you're feeling about it right now. I don't want to get overly optimistic, but I'm a highly optimistic dude. These last 2 weeks have been promising. I'm starting to see small little steps, and I mentioned that cohesion of this team kind of coming together, becoming, finding that identity that they're talking about. And I'm not getting too grandiose, but all of a sudden this really tough schedule that we have coming up maybe doesn't look as tough as we might have thought it was, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, even into the preseason. I am going to be I'm going to try and remove my emotional heart from my head this week because it's the Packers, man. You got to understand, I hate this team. I hate this organization. And, Justin Fields is a long line of rookie quarterbacks who are going to be going through a rite of passage. And it doesn't matter in this town what you do against any other NFL team until you play the Packers. And Justin Fields is going to start doing that this week. How are you looking at this matchup right now? Are you feeling confident? Look, the Packers are a great team. They probably are the class of the NFC North, but I'm starting to feel like we can be competitive in this game. And I think we can give them some problems in some different ways. What say you?
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think of all the years, I think this is a year where everything going on with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, we've seen at times them look good, but we haven't seen the Aaron Rodgers type performances that we're used to, because I think it's just not on the same page. He missed all, most of the preseason camp, the OTAs and all that with them. I think he was just really mad about the staff. He's like, I'm probably not even going to be here next year, things like that. So I think
real short interjection real quick. I think 206 of his 280 passing yards yesterday were all to Devontae Adams. So that also says a bit about I'm just going back to the well.
Exactly. And you look at these games where there's been one receiver that you really have to stop, right? You look at this past week against Darren Waller and Ruggs, right? Those were their two top guys. They held them under check, right? And then the week before, TJ Hawkins, we got to stop him. He's going off in all these games. They're able to stop him. So I think that's a situation where you have a guy that is going to be a game breaker. The Bears, Sean Desai and company, they have a great plan for that. So I'm not worried about this game like I usually am every year. I think this is a very winnable game. And I think Bill Lazor, I think that's the X factor. I think that's what we've been missing since Matt Nagy has come and become the head coach, is this type of game planning where, hey, we're going to trust the run. We're going to open it up, then when we get comfortable, we're going to work that play action in there. But our identity offensively is going to be to grind them out. We're going to run the football. And I think you have two great backs in Herbert and Williams. And I think they're having an opportunity to absolutely shine with Montgomery out. I think you're playing great defense. And I think Khalil Mack gets up for a game like this. I think Robert Quinn is going to have one of his best performances. I really believe that. Roquan and company, I think this is a game that they're really getting up for. And I think it's going to be a tight one. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. but I think the Bears come out with the victory. And I'm not trying to be a homer or anything, but I truly believe that with the emphasis on running the football, eliminating those turnovers, playing great defense. And I think against Rodgers this week, we dial up that blitz package. We at times double cover Devontae Adams, really keep the attention on him, because I think he's the guy that can really break you. And I'm not too worried about a guy like Randall Cobb. I think he's talented, but I think he's getting up there in years. I think Devontae Adams is the engine. Him and Aaron Rodgers are the engine that run that offense. And I think if you could cut him off or contain him a little bit, you don't allow him the targets, you get physical with him, you press him, things of that nature. And then we dial up that blitz package, right? Because Aaron Rodgers isn't the guy that we can give 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. We can't do that. So I think from the first whistle, in the obvious passing situations, dial up that blitz package, bring some of those rushers, bring a corner blitz, bring a safety blitz, exit games. And then the hard count this week. Aaron Rodgers loves to get people to jump. So watch the football defensive line. Khalil Mack, I know you want to get after him, but he's going to go on 3, 4, 5, 6. He's a guy that goes on 6. No quarterback ever goes on 6. And what he tries to do, get you to jump. And then when you jump, what does he do? He runs out there. They go deep. They play, right? So that's a situation where we need to be cognizant of that. But I think this is a game, like I said, it's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to be similar to this Vegas game. I think it's going to be a very tight game, lower scoring game. Maybe we don't light it up offensively, but I think it's a situation where we win the game, 20-17, something like that.
Yes, I love it, man. And you mentioned those 3rd and longs previously in the pod. That was the first thing that came up in my head when you were talking about Aaron Rodgers. Definitely something that we're going to have to stop. And yeah, it is a lot of times about who you play, but sometimes it's about when you play them. And the Bears right now are trending in the right direction. We're building on something. We've got ourselves a little something called momentum. And, the Packers, Jair Alexander's out for the year. Zadarius Smith is out. Yep. Their defense maybe isn't exactly what, it has been in previous years. We're going to be playing at home. We're going to be rocking and rolling. Maybe we are catching them at the right time a little bit. And, man, if a rookie like Justin Fields can come out and beat the Packers in his first start against them, I mean, he will be doing something that men like Grossman, unfortunately Cutler, unfortunately Trubisky were unable to do over the past 15 or 16 years. That'll do it for our Bears-Raiders postgame, man. Bears win in Week 5. They are now 3-2. We are now 3-2 on our season picks. Yes, over 500. Walk with our heads held high this week. And listeners, thank you so much for checking out this pod. You're just going to have to come back in a couple of days because we're going to dive in deep on Bears-Packers, get you ready for hopefully a win on the lakefront. My name is Joey Christopoulos. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy. Today's episode is presented by betonline.ag. 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use promo code BLEAV, BLEAV. Corey, my man, great post-game, dude. Your keys came through. We're going to depend on you again. Bill Lazor's depending upon you again to give us the keys to victory next week. See you in a couple days, man. Take us home.
Sounds good, my man. You can follow me on socials at Corey Wootton, COREYW, 2 O's, 2 T's, O-N, Instagram, Twitter. You know the drill. Love your guys' support. Give us the feedback, comments, likes, subscribe. You've been loving doing this, vibing, and giving you the game plan, against the Pack week. I think everybody looks forward to this, especially the Bears fans. As a player, loved it. So looking forward to diving into the matchups, the keys, the ingredients. I'm looking for all the secret sauce this week to take down Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, baby.
Ooh, should we make a really special dish this week with our ingredients for a victory course?
Hey, we might have to. We got to avoid cheese, though. No cheese in there.
No. Cheese. Look, man, I'm in my 30s. Lactose intolerant, buddy. Can't do it anymore.
Exactly.
Can't do it, won't do it. Never won't do it. Man, great pod, Corey. Everyone listening, thank you so much for checking it out. Be well, be safe. Please be good to each other. Remember, this is a great week to bear down. And go White Sox.
Yes, sir. Good stuff, man.